I'm Gerson Borrero for City and State TV. I'm here with State Senator Adriano Espaillat. Senator, where are we at in this legislative process that it doesn't seem to end? There's no end in sight. Today is Thursday. People are saying that this will go into tomorrow. What's your assessment right now?
Well, it's been an absolute circus for the first, importantly because several different rent laws bills have been floated around. Two different ones in the Senate, one presenting an 8-year extender, a second one presenting a 4-year extender, and two different ones in the Assembly, one presenting a 2-day extender, and a more recent one presenting an 8-month extender. None of which are really presenting a resolution to the issues of vacancy decontrol, of the 20% bonus that the landlord gets for vacant apartments, reforms for major capital improvement practices or individual apartment improvement practices, preferential rent. None of the real issues that are impacting tenant are really being tackled by these 4 different versions. And so, we're stuck here because there's no consensus. Okay, and I'm willing to stay till hell freezes over, but it looks like this is going really bad.
What we're hearing, and we've been sitting in state here for the past, I'd say 36 hours, we're hearing that there is lack of clearness or direction, if you will, coming from the executive chamber, that being Governor Cuomo, that there is already in the Senate, which Republicans dominate, they're a majority, under the new Speaker Flanagan and on the Carl Hastie side in terms of the Assembly, that there is a willingness, but they don't see the leadership from the governor. Is the governor to blame, or is it the people that are falling short? Did they wait too long? Is it the Assembly, is it the Senate?
That's a good question, Gerson, because the governor moved, over the weekend, the past weekend,
right,
where he came out for the elimination of vacancy control, many protests. I personally was arrested and other people were arrested here down on the second floor. Mm-hmm. There's been a constant effort to push the envelope, to push the agenda, and he moved. He actually moved more towards the tenant, but we haven't seen the practical effort, the use of the bully pulpit to ensure that then, that materializes into something practical for tenant action. And so we haven't seen that. So that needs to happen, and he's the leader. We have, unfortunately, this 3 men in a room model, and they got to come in there, and roll up their sleeves and make sure that we have a consensus, because tenants are very anxious back in the district. People don't know what's going to happen, and that's not good for New York City.
You just mentioned something that's key that people forget. 5 counties make up New York City. Everybody knows that. It's downstate. Does upstate get it? Do they care? Is it a matter of not seeing the practicality of 2 million people and their needs?
When I debated Kathy Young with their 8-year extender bill, I asked her, because she's the housing chair, do you have any units of affordable rent control housing in your district? And her answer was no. So here you have this person who doesn't have one apartment that's rent stabilized, debating the future of 2.5 million people in New York City, which make up the economic engine of the entire state. So this is so lopsided. And of course, this is really an ethical issue. Will money bully its way again around here in Albany? Because this is not just about housing. This is about, are we going to continue to do things the way we've done it in the past? Where special interest comes in, throws elbows, bullies their way around and get their way. Are we going to allow the landlord interest again to bully its way around and get a bill that doesn't give anything for tenants and gives everything to landlords?
Now that you say that, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but as you're saying that, there is a fundraiser that I just learned that the governor has tonight. He's not going to be present, but the fundraiser to fatten his coffers actually is going to be going on. We don't have a list, so we're not going to make any assumptions, but we could safely say that there probably will be real estate interests writing checks. We're going to assume that. If he makes the list, then we'll be clear on what it is that he got. Are those the kind of influences that you're talking about?
Well, I'm not going to speak for him or who his donors are. But what I will say is that, for example, the suburbanites, the middle-class New Yorkers, they want a tax cap for real estate. Mm-hmm. That's a fair thing. Their real estate taxes are very high. The developers want 421A, $1 billion of subsidies for developers that construct high luxury housing.
Right.
And so, if we're willing to give that to developers and the cities behind it, and if we're willing to give tax caps to suburbanites and the Republican conference is behind that, how come we cannot give renters, 2.5 million of them, a break? And so, this is about equity. This debate is about equity, and whether the donors are going from both sides of the aisle, giving to housekeeping accounts, to individual accounts for re-election. That's a very serious matter. But I want to see that we come out of here where the suburbanites are taken care of, and if the developers want to produce some affordable housing and the mayor is behind them, I'm willing to talk about that, although I have voted against that bill in the past. What I really want to see is that tenants get a break. Vacancy control, MCI reform, individual apartment improvement, for something for them to have some oxygen, in the room.
Two questions. Have the tenants' voice been too silent? Are the tenants organized well enough? You mentioned, for example, we had Jeffrey Dinowitz here from the Assembly and leader of the Bronx delegation earlier with us. In your case, what percentage of the residents that make up your senatorial district are rent control or impacted by these laws that have been allowed to expire?
I have 87,000 units of rent control apartments, rent stabilized apartments, the biggest of any district. And I've held several forums where hundreds of people have come out. I think that the tenant groups have been better organized this time around than ever before. Yesterday I saw how Brooklyn Borough President Eric Adams camped outside of the governor's office with the tenant advocates. So I think that they've been very, very well organized. We still have a stretch to go, because if we're sent back to the city, the pressure must continue. And I will be joining them in whatever they do.
State Senator Adriano Espaillat, thank you so much.
Well,
Good luck on that.
Thank
And
you.
when do you think we'll be here till?
I don't know.
Tuesday next week? Speculation on part of anything.
I got 2 more clean shirts, but there's a Macy's nearby where I can get me a couple of them.
For City and State TV, I'm Gerson Borrero. See you in the next one.